out of the wrapper, put it right in. And I was big impatient. And God forbid I'm sitting in the drive-thru at Wendy's. And they don't give it to me in 17 seconds. And oh, the worst is when you've been waiting for a couple of minutes at the window and you've already paid them. And then they come and say, "Sir, could you just pull forward for a couple of minutes? We'll bring this right out to you." Oh, no. Just give me my money back. I'll go through another drive-thru. Have you been that hungry? I've been that hungry. I felt my blood sugar dropping and my energy level, and I'm thinking, I don't need to be driving right now. My head's hurting. I need food, and I need it now, or I'm going to be really sick. And I think that's where Esau was that day. He knew he better get some nourishment in him, and he didn't have strength to crawl to the next tent. He wanted it now, and he wanted it that desperately. And I'm sure by the time Jacob was through talking to him, he was like, "Yes, whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. Just give me something to eat." So Jacob gives him something to eat, and he gives him his birthright. Now, there's a myriad of reasons. I don't know why he gave him his birthright. Maybe he didn't want the responsibilities that come with it, like in the King's Speech. Maybe he just wanted a life of hunting and being out in the wilderness and not being bothered by all of the responsibilities that come with it. Well, what exactly did he trade? Let me tell you what he traded. First, he traded his authority and superiority over the rest of the family. Because you see, as the father ages and can't make as good of decisions perhaps as he used to, who do they all go to? The eldest son. I don't know if that happens in your family, but it certainly did in my family on both sides. And when the grandparents died, it went to the male. The oldest male was the next in line as the patriarch of the family. Nobody said it had to be that way. Everybody just knew it was going to be that way. Nobody said, "Oh, well, we have to, we all have to." There was no explanation. I just remember very well that when my grandparents died, my Uncle William was the next person. He automatically was the next patriarch, and everybody in the family looked to him. That meant if there were any family reunions anymore, Uncle William had to organize them. Uncle William had to be the sage for the family. He had to stand up for the family, and it was through him that the last will and testaments were read and the divisions. It went all, and it, of course, I'm going to tell you, unlike many families that end up in bitter fights when someone dies, Uncle William was not that way, and neither were my grandparents. They had left everything, and it was more like, "Well, I got this." The will was read. "Well, I got this, and I got this. Is there anything I got that you want?" And everybody's like, "Well, I gave this, but is that something you can use? You're welcome. I don't mind." And the whole family was that way. In fact, I think Uncle William gave most of his, if not all of it, away to other people in the family. Don't you wish you had a family like that? The other side of the family was not so lucky. I don't know why, but somehow or another we all get this idea that the eldest son is the next in line. So he was giving up that position in the family, spoken or unspoken. He gave up the blessing from the father when the father actually knows he's going to die. And if you know when Isaac was going to die, he had to bless the next one to turn that authority over, that next in line. It was a ceremony, and it came to Jacob instead of to Esau. He also gave up the right of being the spiritual leader, because the oldest is the one that directs the family in their spiritual walk. The oldest is the one who says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." It was the eldest who had to be the spiritual leader as well. But here's the real kicker. When the parents died, it meant that the eldest got a double portion of the inheritance. Now you think about that a minute if you have a sibling. What if they're going to get twice as much as you get? Some of you have lived through that, and you don't want to go through it again. But that is exactly what it meant. The eldest got twice as much as the rest of the children. And in this case, since there were only two of them, he was going to get 2/3, and Jacob was only going to get 1/3. And he traded that away for one bowl of stew. Now you say, "Oh my goodness, what does that mean?" I mean, that's well, we're dirt poor, so it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But they weren't dirt poor. They owned a lot. They were very wealthy. They had a lot going on, and this meant he was going to get twice as much. Jacob got him to give him that birthright. Think about that for a second. Okay, so now we're talking about finances. And you want to get people's attention, talk about finances, especially when it's coming out of my pocket, right? But in addition to that, who had the leadership and who ended up serving whom? Remember the Edomites and the Israelites? It was Jacob that was blessed in the end. It was Jacob who had 12 children, and we've learned that they become the 12 tribes of Israel, and that they have become known throughout all of biblical history as God's chosen people. Not Esau's offspring, only Jacob's. He gave up a whole lot that day. He gave up a lot that day. And I want to ask you something. If only what you're looking at is right in front of you, and you're not taking any thought for the future, what is it going to affect? And God just kept speaking to me this week and saying, it's time to look beyond the moment. It's time to look beyond this moment of instant gratification. And I don't know what that means to some of you, whether it's in relationships or in finances or in business moves or business ventures, if it has to do with your job. You know, I taught school for 19 years, and I know that seniors, I was always amazed at the variety, because there was always that group that was just ready to jump right out of high school. In fact, they wanted to skip over their senior year. Just get me into college. Just get me to the next phase of my life. But there were also that one group on the other extreme that just wanted to quit school and get a job. I just want to get a job. I just want to get out and make my own money. They didn't want to put 4 more years into college before they started making that money. I'm an adult now. I'm 18. I'm ready to hit the world, and the world's not ready for all I have to offer. Maybe you were one of those. But they weren't really looking beyond the instant money that they were going to get. They weren't all looking for what they could do later if they continued in another vein. I'll give you an example. I also worked with a teacher that was getting close to retirement. And I said, well, you know, we were all good close friends, so we kind of talked business, and we said, are you looking forward to this? Do you have everything set? And are you going to be able to make it financially? And, because school teachers don't make that much money. And, are you going to be able to make it on the pension that comes with that? And she said, I'm going to be fine. She said, when I went, my first teaching job, that year when I went to get my insurance, the insurance agent suggested that I start putting something out of each check for my retirement into an account, into an annuity. And she said, I've been doing that for 30 years, and I've never once touched it. I've never seen it. It never came to me in my check. It came out before it ever got to me. And I've never even noticed that it wasn't there. I've just had to live on what came otherwise. And I just went like that. I thought, oh my God, she's a millionaire. She's probably a millionaire right now because she put a little bit aside every paycheck without even touching it, without ever even seeing it. And I just thought, I'm going to have to work until I drop dead because I've not done any of that. It's amazing, isn't it? Out of one person speaking to her and telling her to look beyond the moment, to look 30 years ahead. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I got 30 years. And maybe some of you don't have 30 years either, but maybe all of us have 30 years. So maybe today we can start doing something about that. Amen? But not just in our finances. What about in our relationships? And what about in our jobs? And what about in all of our decisions? You see, Esau, he got left out. No, he didn't have all the responsibilities of being the spiritual leader and being the go-to person in the family. Maybe he didn't care about that. But he lost out on a lot of finances. And he also lost out on being the head of all of the chosen ones that came after him. He could have had fame and fortune, and he gave it all away in one weak moment for a bowl of stew. I just want to say to you what God is saying to me. Sometimes our hungers for whatever is right in front of us. It's not always the best thing for us. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So we've got to find the right balance of what works and what doesn't, and what will benefit us and what will not benefit us. The point of it is we have to weigh it out to take that moment. So I want you to take just a moment and think about whatever's right in front of you right now and see. Take just a moment to breathe. Take just a moment to weigh it. Take just a moment to ask God for some guidance on it. And ask God to give you balance in whatever's going on in your life. Now, I know this sermon wasn't as funny as the penguins and the porcupines this week, and I know some of you found yourself all week long deciding who you were, and some of you morphing into a different animal and realizing it was okay. I know this one's a little more serious than that, but at the same time, it's just what God kept giving me, and I know that there's somebody that needs this today. And here's the ending prayer that God gave me for all of us. Most of you probably know it by heart. The serenity prayer. And I would ask you, would you pray this prayer with me? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference of what's right in front of me that's okay for me right now, or the thing that's right in front of me that's going to have a long-term effect on not only my life, but the lives of other people around me. Let that be our prayer today. Amen. Amen. Can we switch gears just a second? As part of this also, we want to give ourselves as an offering, but we also want to help in